Give me 1 second here. Let me do one more thing. And yeah, no, you're all set.
Okay, welcome to the Wednesday, September 28th, 2022 Shellfish Advisory Committee meeting. The Shellfish Advisory Committee is committed to providing an environment of respect during meetings. We ask that all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there is disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcomed and respected. We ask that our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards to support and respect our community. So welcome to the meeting. And first on our agenda was to call the meeting to order, and we just did that. Review and approve meeting minutes, and we don't have any right now to approve. And we were gonna talk about the aquaculture program, but I wondered if we wanted to give an update on the recreation. Because we did get news on that, so we can do that so that it's recorded and available for people to hear.
Something to look forward to.
Mike, do you want to do?
Yeah, so Mike Mail, Town Scituate Shellfish Constable. So after numerous testings and sampling and modeling of the north and south rivers, it appears there'll be some level of opening 1 January. We pushed for September 1st, however, that date is already passed. Sampling testing is continuing at the Scituate treatment plant, and all the tests to date from the date of closure have come back excellent. All the sampling for fecal coliforms, all those tests have come back good, as they always have been for the last 15, 20 years since I've been on both sides of the river. So opening will be January 1st. It won't be a full opening at this time. We are looking at areas based on a 400 to 1 model versus 1,000 to 1 ratio. So there's been a lot of back and forth with the SMAC study out of UMass Dartmouth and DMF. So kind of good news, not the full news that we were anticipating, but it's a step in the right direction. And I know some people won't be satisfied with a full opening. We're still working behind the scenes to get as much open as we can with those areas. So that's kind of where we're at. Kind of some good news, but at least it's something. I don't think we're to the point of closing down certain areas because it's been 2 years since people actually dug out there legally. So I'm sure there's plenty of stocks, plenty of steamers, plenty of razor clams in those beds. So some areas I know will be closed, which is by the Herring River. That area will probably not be open based on what I've seen on the models. But portions of the North River and South River will be open, which will probably trigger me to go back on both sides of town to open up shell fishing for 7 days a week versus certain days in certain towns, based on people having done it for a couple of years. So, or after we get through all this stuff, feedback to some shellfish regulations for recreational side to open up the beds more hours, things like that, more days. It's the right thing to do. So I'll take any questions online or here if you have any.
That is good news.
It's great news, we just heard yesterday.
So also with that, there is a stakeholder and official town meetings with DMF and the director of marine fisheries in the next couple of weeks. So hoping more comes out of that meeting that will help trigger some better openings for the rivers, but it affects both sides of the river, Marshall and Scituate. So it's been a lot of work, a lot of stakeholders, a lot of people, civilians, North River Watershed. I want to thank them as well publicly, but there's other people that have been pretty persistent with this, and I think those fights have helped on our front and their front. So it's something that didn't get forgotten. So those people know who they are.
Yeah, and I think we should also add that after the meeting with DMF, that we are pushing them to have a public meeting, a larger public meeting, to really explain it, because a lot of us are curious as to how they come up with their calculation and what the results are. So kind of a presentation format, probably Zoom as well.
Yeah, and
for that, we requested that in October.
Yeah, that was requested a few times. I think once we have the data, that'll be shared on our website as well. I've seen it, don't really understand all of it. I don't really agree with all of it either publicly. based on the ratio and the way the water goes and the volumes. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I've been in there over 30 years, and I know which way water goes.
You know which way water goes.
So it's, I think common, local knowledge is kind of essential, but I'm not gonna debunk it right now, but let's just see what's open and what's not.
And listen to their explanation when we get it. I saw Jamie's hand was up. Can you do your name and?
Jamie Davenport, 16 Booth Hill Road. So I'm guessing, Mike, that the backside of the spit is probably not gonna be one of the open ones.
Yeah, that was one of the areas I asked that right away, and it was kind of known, right?
Do you have any instinct as to whether that might be an area where that when you say that they might open it more or could, or is it just too close to the?
Basically, the same is too close to the outflow pipe, but then again, they sampled at the sewer plant for 2 years. The sample has UV testing. I don't think that was greatly taken into consideration for any of this. They've had no plant failures in over 2.5, 3 years. There are standards to close the flats within 4 hours in case the sewer plant did have a problem. And based on the cameras that some towns have and the amount of people actually dig out there and the actual location you actually get to the flats, you can close the flats down in under 2 hours. I'm very confident of that. So all of that needs to be put into a plan as well. So hopefully we can get that back open. And if it doesn't, maybe we can go in there and transplant that stock somewhere else to another area.
There's so many out there.
I know it's loaded and it's a good spot, it's an easy spot. People can walk out there from Third Cliff on certain tides, but I'm already anticipating having other areas north of there, maybe acre it off or cut a roll enclosure or a sectorization of clam flats. And maybe we put steamers in 1 acre plots, and you do cohogs in a different area. So we can do a lot with, plantings and things like that. So, especially when the rivers are closed, you are allowed to transport contaminated shellfish as long as you monitor and keep it closed. It's gonna be a lot of undertaking, but enforcement obviously in the rivers, in certain areas, it's all, the graph is all like circles and this and that's not a square area footage, so it's gonna be really hard to see what's closed and what's not closed. It's
event
gonna
of
be tough.
sewer plant failing, don't they have some capacity for storage?
Yeah, 1.6.
Let's mitigate
And
any.
you can hold on 1.6, and I'll go on with this too, and the thing is too, we're past Labor Day, the town's population has significantly decreased. But the sewer plant's not operating where it was in June, July, August, and September, right? So we're in the off season, that needs to be taken into consideration as well, and that was something that they didn't think about as well. So a lot of arguments have been raised to put forth to the 401, the 1,001, or even make it lower, so there are a lot of arguments to be had, and I'm not the only one to come up with these ideas, a lot of people have too, but even the boat traffic, there's very little boat traffic, that impacts shellfishing. There's not a lot of moorings in the area that are open, that impacts the shellfish stuff. There's not a lot of people on moorings past October 15th in that area, all those need to be taken into consideration. The tides are sometimes higher in the winter time too, so that needs to be taken into consideration, so you get more flush.
Yeah.
So, I'm not happy with the 401 or 1,001. I should went back to what it was, and I've made my sentiments known on many levels, too many phone calls. And unfortunately, this is where we're at, but at least we're getting back to something. It's something. Which should never happen this way, but I'm a clamor as well.
I have a question.
Yep.
So the clams that are in the areas that are closed, they would be considered contaminated clams, I would say. I know that they've been able to move contaminated clams from New Bedford and different areas and things like that. Is that possible to actually take the ones stay in the back of the spit and actually move them?
You have to do it on a closed cycle,
Yeah.
do a permit, which we've done propagation projects before in both sides of the river with bushels of cohogs from the Taunton River that were contaminated, then they purged like technically 30 days, 45 days just, and then before the rivers were open, you would go dig samples and test the meats. And we've done that numerous times over the years on both sides of the river, and they've always come back good. And the river's quality of the water is the best it's ever been in 50 years. So that needs to be taken into consideration. It's not like it's an area that's been closed for many, many years. It's an area that's been heavily looked at by the North South River watershed. All the samples, books of them, and maybe a few rain events, but other than that, the samples been well below the thresholds. anytime. So, I think, I will say, I think Marine Fisheries is trying to get us back to something, it's not like they're closing the door on us. Like I said, I know it's not perfect for everyone, but at least it's something. And like I kind of say that, like, it's kind of like deer hunting, people go deer hunting day one, it's cold, the next day they don't go out. It's the same hardy people that pretty much go to the same areas all the time, because they know where to go. But it's, get back to your passion, go out there, and it's, whatever, but at least we're getting something back. And there are other areas that there are steamers out there, razor clams and coal hogs, but if we have to do more propagation, we have some funds to do that.
Yeah, great news.
Very good.
Anyone online have any questions? I didn't see any. I don't know if I'm missing hands or anything.
And also to both towns, Marsh and Scituate do have shellfish gift accounts. If people want to donate to those accounts. So that is out there as well.
On to the next agenda item. I know we're off agenda, but I thought it was important to get that information out there. Review and advise select board regarding aquaculture applications and people that are still interested in the aquaculture program. So I guess I should recap. We have at the last meeting we had, we were sent the DMF form to the remaining seven applicants of the 9 that expressed interest in February. And of those 6 applicants, 4 responded that they remained interested. So we've gone from 9 to 6 to now we're at 4. And they filled out the form, the aquaculture description form, and sent it in to us, and this meeting we're going to review and ask any questions, or review and discuss, and then ask the applicants any questions. And we also invited the applicants to attend tonight, and all of them are here. So 3 are in the room and 1 is online, I see. I will remind everybody that we're an advisory committee, so this is not, we're advising the select board. We are not giving out grants. The select board is the entity that would advertise the public meeting and hold the meeting and then give out the grants. So we are merely reviewing the applications and asking questions and advising the select board. And then also to remind folks, we have 2 areas that we mapped out, and that's online as well. So how do we want to start as a board? We have the 4 applications.
You want to talk about the DMF survey we did? So,
Oh, the DMF survey. Oh, also the DMF survey. I can pull up the areas. Let me do that so we have a visual.
and private study.
And the private.
survey.
So there, let's see. I have this handy little, let me try to screen share. That's always fun. It's been a minute since I've done this. Having the dual. This is what I want to share. Okay. Is it working? Ta-da! Oh my God, it worked. Okay. So this is what we did to combine everything. So let me walk through this. This is posted on our website. See, I'm sharing from www.scituatema.gov for full transparency. So this is our map that we've gone over and over with. The green is historic eelgrass, and that's years of finding eelgrass in that area based on flyover, based on students going out there and looking for grass. That's the historic eelgrass. The blue lines that we have, the blue line, is the Dmf Preliminary Survey. So Dmf went out with us in a Scituate Harbor master boat. We went out of Cohasset Harbor, and went and did a bunch of transects looking for eelgrass. And what we were doing was making sure that our areas were not close to eelgrass. Well, all of those blue lines, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. No eelgrass was found at all. There's not a lot of eelgrass out there anymore. And so we have that on the map as well. The purple lines over, right here, those two purple lines, the two transects right there, those are the areas that we're talking about having aquaculture sites. So they are outside of any eelgrass. They're also, would even be outside of historic eelgrass. So if you went back in time in any history of eelgrass that the state has recorded, they would not be in those sites. And they're not even close to eelgrass, so we don't have to worry about the 50-foot marker. So we did a preliminary study of eelgrass, and we also heard that there was another study of eelgrass done, a private study of eelgrass, and we understand that nothing was found as well. So here we are looking at those two sites to see where, and those two sites equal roughly 10 acres. Each one of them are about 5 acres large. So we have 4 people applying for, and we had said 1 acre spots within those areas. And there's a gap in between them because we wanted to leave space for the area coming out from the backside of Minot Beach parking lot. So people that come out that way, and we heard public comment that would be a good thing to do. So we, as far as moving forward, we would work with the applicants and move them forward to the select board, and then following that, the select board would grant the licenses, and the applicants would then have to go through the process of working with DMF and Army Corps and all the other permitting process. So that's where we are. Are there any questions? Did I leave anything out as far as the one other line, the red line is the mean low. And again, it's outside the mean low tide mark and between the historic eelgrass and mean low. And these were surveys done by Scituate as well. So here we are. Okay, is that a good overview? Mike, did you have other? Yes. Okay, let's see, let me stop share a minute. And then you wanna just pick the applicants randomly and ask. Do you have questions on the applications? I've read all the applications. I have a couple questions as far as where.
Going over this for 2 years, okay?
Okay, I just have questions as to site selection because not all of them chose where they want to be. 2 of them did and 2 of them didn't. So that's my main question.
4 acres at 6 available, so I don't think it's gonna be a mad dash out to put gear out there. I mean, they're all relatively the same area, same water depths, so
Yeah, I think so too.
make it a fair process of how they want to pick.
Yeah.
If 2 are already picked, 2 didn't come in.
Do you want to ask the 2 that didn't pick if they have, looking at this map, what the,
Well, if they didn't pick, I don't think they're too worried about it. I think they'd rather get to the process,
okay,
get the license, I would assume.
right, did other people have questions on the license? Do you want to just hear from each of the applicants since we have it?
Sure.
Quickly, give them each a chance to. Right, who's gonna go
Everybody
first?
jump all at once.
Let me go in alphabetical order, or should I
You
go?
guys been waiting a couple years to do
In
this.
order in which I receive them in the email, I could do that. Where do you wanna raise your hand, applicants?
You got it first.
Or Andrew's already sitting at the table, so he could go first.
Front row. Yeah,
Can you say your name and
Yeah,
address for the-
Andrew Slater, 226 Gannett Road, Scituate. I think probably if you go back to the map on
I can do that, yes.
northeast portion, or the farthest away from the western
Yes. Away from the western shore. Sorry, it takes a minute.
So the right box and
Oh, the right box,
Right here?
okay.
yeah, right, you know, far,
Okay.
so.
All right. And then is there anything you wanted to say about, I mean, we've been in this for quite some time, but we haven't give you a chance to.
I prefer basically for the red tape just
Yeah.
to continue and then we'll jump in. Yeah, as I spoke to you today, a lot depends on that. And especially if we're looking at putting equipment and seed in April and May of 2023, that would be ideal. If it goes later than that, then might postpone type of thing. So
Okay.
that's my initial thought.
Okay. I mean, I think the timeline would match up with spring if we went to the select board in October.
That would be great.
Okay. Any more questions?
No.
I can go next.
Jamie, you wanna go next?
Yeah, Jamie Davenport, 16 Booth Hill Road. My partner Greg Wallingford, who I understand is on the call, and I provided the coordinates and selected the southeasternmost corner of that left trapezoid.
Yep.
I was out there at an even low tide to scope it out and kind of, you know, imagine, dream. It's right there, I can see it. And that seems like an appropriate spot. We're happy with that if that's what we get.
Larry Trowbridge, 392 Tilden Road. What about, I mean, 4 applicants, 10 acres? I mean, 2 acres per applicant? Is there a reason why we're stuck on the 1 acre? Or? So we could each have 1 acre in each quadrant and
Let's just get started first.
see what's going
I
on.
mean, you guys were out from 10 people to 4, so,
Yeah.
you know, obviously you guys are the first one out there in the pilot program, so. And actually 1 acre is put aside for the town as well.
That, yeah,
And Cohasset for any scientific stuff, so. That's in the regulations.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
let's get it started and
Yeah.
then revisit that. I mean, we
It's
have.
a fair question, but it still
Yeah.
remains in a pilot
Yeah.
step.
No.
I think we're taking our advice, but there's plenty of room, it's massive
It's
out
just,
there.
you know.
Well, somebody did.
And they start out really small anyway, right?
In theory, I agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, maximize.
In the regulations, we do have, is it a maximum of 2 acres per licensee?
There's a maximum of 2 in the
2, yeah.
regulations, correct, and we did not change that.
Right, for what it's worth, I'm fine with 1 acre to start, because I still don't believe that anyone will be able to prove that the intertidal space adjacent to this area is privately owned, and that it is in fact in the public trust. And if I were to expand, I'd rather not have 2 acres of water, of farm that's in the water all the time. I'd rather have 1 acre intertidal and 1 acre of subtidal in order to play them off each other. So I'm basically gonna be hopefully biding my time. And you know, when the opportunity arises for us to expand 2 acres, hopefully the intertidal space has been opened up, you know.
I mean, that's a really good point, because ideally, if you had 2, you'd want 1 in the water and 1.
And if you already have 2, I mean, what do? Can you give 1 back? It just
Yeah,
makes it
well,
difficult.
Yeah, it's hard to, it would be a new application, because I have asked DMF that. So I have asked if it was all, you know, beyond the mean low, and then we decided, oh no, everyone wants to be in the other, move the floor to the, you know, to the
The sand
beach
flats.
or the sand flats, then we would have to go through a whole new application. Or the applicants would have to go through a whole new application.
Or just make it contingent upon expanded to 2 acres from what I know.
Yeah, I don't know, we'd have to ask DMF about that. But it is a good point.
And I did want to ask Mike a question about that.
Yeah.
Since we were looking at the maps of, or since I was looking at the maps, we were discussing the results from the survey, the recreational. Just having a look at the most recent map, 7/12/2021 from DMF of MB10. And this whole area is marked as conditionally approved. Is that gonna impact us at all, that it's conditionally, not just straight out approved?
I think the main reason that because of the coastal short line, that's why. Kind of something that how Plymouth, Kingston, Industrial went through their issues down there, that's why it's conditional.
But it wouldn't impact aquaculture. The only issue with the conditionally approved is they can't sell out of the country.
Can't sell TV.
So,
Actually, I have another question.
and none of the plans, when we went through this whole thing, no one had a plan to sell to the EU market.
Sort of going off of Jamie's question. Originally, it was gonna be 3 1-acre non-consecutive plots or acres. And going off of Jamie's, just to make sure you're in the right spot, would it be best to go half acre in one spot and then somewhere else, like maybe in the different quadrant, half and half, or I'm just
Oh, I see
thinking,
what
you
you're
know, basically for research purposes, to see, you know, whether they're in the right spot, what's going faster, you know, what's getting, you know, the best flow type of thing.
I mean, that's a good question. I think these two areas, these two purple areas are very similar in the sediment as well as the depth of water and flow. I think what would, if, you know, as Jamie projected that, you know, the flats are indeed Scituate town land, and the expansion was toward the flats, that would be very different, and you have more time to work. So it's really a time situation,
So
and not so much. So I'm not sure that it would be the, you know, half there would be
Well,
a good idea.
I think we should identify all 20 acres of it, and the plot that they pick is designated to me or the committee of where they go. So if that line, like Jamie said, does move intertitle based on the title search the town's doing, it's covered in the permit.
Okay. I can ask DMF if we can do that.
So we're not coming back and do this over.
And not doing it over
So
again.
if we identify the 20 acres that we originally had, because actually this is actually
That's
more.
10.
But this is actually more because that's in the water, right? So you're actually expanding there from what you previously had, the 20 acres that were intertidal. This is actually creating more to look at it area wise. But I think the town takes the 4 corner points and the application says the license is issued to X person in this area based on the town's data or land conditions.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Jamie?
Yeah.
It makes sense to me. I mean, you're right, you're gonna have to go through a whole lot more red tape. I mean, Shellfish advisory, town meeting, abutters notified, all that over again. But we may not be able to.
But that would also be, agree, but that would be up to the select board if they wanna go there with that. If they wanna go in and do a conditional.
That'll be a question for DMF tomorrow.
We can ask DMF.
In Dennis, the town basically applied with like 15 acres originally and expanded by 15, they did it differently. So they basically, they carved out, you know, when they were all done, they had 30 acres on a grid system that the municipality of the town of Dennis was able to move people around or in there, but the whole area was like certified, if you will. It had been
Yeah.
surveyed, it had been licensed.
Yeah, I
No,
mean,
no.
it's not gonna be even close to that big, but,
No,
yeah,
but
yeah.
just a similar, you know, process.
right, cause, yeah, this is 5 acres and 5 acres, but, and it would be, we could do the corner points. The Scituate town, we would have corner point buoys on the 4 end corners saying, you know, property town of Scituate buoys. And then, mark within those.
Yeah, and then expanding either south or southeast would
Yep.
be the smartest.
That would be the way if it works out. I mean, this is a whole bunch of if it works out too, right? I mean, who knows?
It's going to work.
Hurricane resilient, you know, nor'easter resilient. I think it's gonna work out too. Okay, did we,
Jamie, can I ask you, Jamie, sorry, can I ask a question
we
regarding?
look that much alike, don't we?
What's that?
We look that much alike.
You just spoke and I had his name in my mind. Gina Seifert, 34 Treasure Island Road. Question, just on that point, how are we going to determine as a town whether it does work out? But I know my sister's been here before asking the same question, others have been asking that. Have we made any progress with knowing ahead of time, what is a successful pilot program? And I know there's so many great pros, but all of the cons that we've discussed before, are any of those being addressed any further, or are we just moving forward? And if it works, in some way it works, but what ways is it not working, and where are we going with that?
I mean, that's a really good question, thank you for your question. We've talked about this a lot even with the select board when we originally went down this road. And the answers that they gave and that we gave was, it was, you know, not just one indicator of if it works. If it works, like if the oysters grow, there's that. There's also if it works with, everything else out there, like the recreation as well as, you know, educational, is it a benefit to the town? Yeah, just, I mean, I think it will be continually talked about, and that's what the select board wants to do, continually evaluate it. But we did talk about many different ways to evaluate how it works, and would be willing to add other criteria.
Is there like a document that everyone can see, the folks that wanna do it and the folks that are worried about it impeding, you know, their use of the area? Are there actual qualifiers of if this happens, then this is considered an unsuccessful pilot program? Or if this happens in the area, it's really considered a very successful pilot program?
No, we don't have an actual document because I think that, you know, there's a lot of unknowns, but it is something we want to continually evaluate.
So that evaluation will happen after it starts, not before it starts.
Right, correct.
So then if it isn't successful, the burden then lies on the folks who don't feel it's successful because of their negative impact, not on the burden is not on the folks that feel it's been successful, because the oysters will hopefully grow
Yeah,
and all these other things, but so it's really then, it becomes the burden of the folks then, the same folks that have had the questions to come back and say, we still have the same questions.
no, I don't think it's the burden of you or anybody to come back. It would be, a part of our Shellfish Advisory Committee would be to help to evaluate it and
To gauge
listen.
all the impacts
listen.
and share it with the select board.
And the select board would be interested in the feedback that we get as well.
So debris and trash and everything else, we would collect all that stuff up and take pictures or bring it to you or show you, like,
It's
that's
hard to
what I-
find trash out there. I have to say,
no,
the students
it's
do
all
such a good job.
Because it hits all the properties, it doesn't just stay out there, it comes
Okay.
into the properties. So you're not seeing it because we're seeing it, so.
Oh, you are, cause I go out to
Yes,
Basset Beach all the time and don't see a lot of trash in comparison. A funny story when we originally did the survey, way back, the like drone survey of the larger, we had put down these, like corner pieces so that the drone could mark them. And we saw a kid walking down the beach with one, they were picking them up and putting them in the trash bag. So they were doing a trash cleanup as we were trying to get drones. So I don't even think a piece of trash hits the beach before Susan and Brian's out there with their kids picking it up. That's been my experience anyway.
Yeah, I was just out this afternoon picking it all up.
Yeah.
We're having an event and it's like, well, okay, so wrappers and, you know, cigarette butts and things that aren't coming from us, they're coming in off.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably coming from all the folks camping out there.
No, it could be from
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah, it could be anywhere, it could be anywhere.
Indeed. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing, we were
Yeah.
wondering if there's going to be some kind of thing proactively
So-
or it's all.
But that is a good question, because that's the kind of thing, how do you tell if it's more trash now than before?
Right.
And
And who's
Susan,
generating?
and who's generating, well, I mean, I don't know that we're gonna like DNA test the like cigarette butt, but Susan's students do a lot of trash pickup, and they probably have data on how much trash they pick up. So it would be, you know, is there additional trash? And I just like can't believe there's gonna be a lot of trash. But
Or additional.
Well, it's not just trash, it's cages, it's all the debris of everything. So
Yeah.
any hurricane that comes through that destroys anything, lobster traps, whatever, it comes, you know.
have you ever been to the town here, the city of town here?
Yes.
No, I'm serious, there's
Yes.
heaps of trash, because
Yes.
like fishermen bring in trash
It's true.
and put heaping piles of it there, and it's taken away to the dump. So like fishermen are
Just rinse.
good stewards of,
Better
Yeah.
stewards typically
good
than normal
stewards
residents.
of the ocean and the bay, and tend to pick up trash.
It was-
And those types of things that equipment does, are specifically spelled out in the regulations. So they have so many days to pick it up. And their equipment is identified and marked so that we will know what contact. And if it
Yeah.
doesn't, then there are repercussions.
Well, yeah, we've just never had lobstermen come pick up their trash ever in zillion years or anyone else. So those were just some of the questions that we had, that we were really hoping for some kind of documentation on what the definition of success for this pilot program. And the converse, what does it make it unsuccessful? For the town to say, listen, this isn't, sorry, you know, maybe we can find another location, but this is not a successful location with the weather and everything else.
Okay, but I mean, it is a good question, it's something we've thought about, and it's something we will also escalate to the select board. Because it's truly their definition of success with our advice.
And how much product actually grows, I mean, what happens out there, I mean, is it a good stock, is it, the success is what grows, no different than a farmer growing corn, it's, how do you gauge if it's a good year, you know?
Yeah, grows and trash.
And impact, it's not just the
And
trash, it's just the impact for the folks, yeah.
Okay. There is one applicant we haven't heard from. Mike, are you online here?
He's there, his wife's named Megan.
Yeah, I see it, but, I did ask to unmute, so
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Oh, yeah. How's everyone doing?
Great.
Great.
How are you doing?
Good, thanks. I was gonna come in person, but my daughter stayed home from school sick today, so my wife thought it better if I stay here.
All right, we all thank you for that.
I don't know, I don't have a whole lot more to offer. I agree with a lot of what's being said here tonight. I think you brought up a lot of good points. And I agree with them. I think we should I'd love to try to get a second acre at some point if that's doable or whatever, but I think we should probably wait on all that. And I put on my application the coordinates that I prefer to try to get if that's possible. If there's a conflict with that, I'd be flexible to moving it, to help accommodate people. So whatever it takes to get started, that's kind of what I want to do.
Okay,
Conflict or?
no, so,
Should be right next to mine.
yeah, let me, oops. Share screen again, keep going back to this, here we go, sorry, it takes a minute. All right, back to the map. So the first,
So would you be east of Eugene?
Yeah, directly east, but divided by a lane, that's all.
yeah, so my pointer's not working right now, but the first, so the one on the right-hand side, looking at it, is the one that Andrew, in that one, and the one on the left-hand side, would be Jamie's first, all the way down to southmost, and then Mike has his there too. And
Right.
then, so it's, so the 2 in one and the one on the right-hand side. Didn't know, Larry, if you didn't have a spot.
I think I wrote some coordinates, but yeah, it doesn't really matter to me,
Okay,
close enough,
okay, doesn't matter to you either.
yeah.
Okay, we did write coordinates for you too.
I think I wrote coordinates for 2 blocks there.
Which one? Yeah.
Wait, which one did you do? Let me look at. Alright.
I believe I might have been on that channel, on the edge of the channel, on the
42.
west side of the channel.
So the rightmost, the
Yeah.
easternmost portion of the left-hand
Yeah,
trapezoid road is.
Be 3 in one and 1 in the other?
3 in one and 1 in the other. Okay. I mean, at this point, you could all be in one, it's only 4 of you, but, okay. Alright,
so that was the one.
He's on the other side there.
is there anything else, any other questions? Or any other? I mean, most of the other parts is just like what gear and everybody answered, cages. And what types of vehicles, and people answered skiffs and trucks and. And everybody answered the same way we're going to access, the same, from Jericho or Parker or that's it, yeah. We're paddling out from mine, I had to just check on it, which is possible, I paddle there all the time. Okay, any other thoughts on how we should, any other thoughts from the committee or any other questions? No?
I have a simple question about the survey. I'm not sure if you know or not, but the privately done survey by the folks in Cohasset, was that strictly an eelgrass survey, or they also look at like benthic habitat and existing populations of shellfish and all that kind of stuff? It was both.
It was, both, because we were notified because it's Scituate waters and Scituate land, so when anybody requests from DMF, to be able to dig up shellfish, the shellfish constable of that town needs to be notified, so we were notified.
Did they provide you with a summary, like a written summary?
Not yet,
Yeah.
no,
We haven't got it yet, but
not yet.
we will have it. It
We
was,
will get
I
it.
actually wanted to do it with them, it was a quick turnaround from issuance to when we started it.
Mhm.
I think it was done by a reputable company, after talking to that gentleman.
Mhm.
He have to provide a copy back to Marine Fishery, which we'll have a copy as well.
Yeah, so that will be
So
public.
you join them?
I wanted to, I really wanted, didn't have a chance to get out there. So it was real quick, but I've been told that no eelgrass was found.
Yeah, no eelgrass, I think Susan and her folks got out too, no eelgrass is out there. I mean, we looked hard, I really wanted to find the eelgrass, cause I wanted to find the line of where it was, and
It was there a couple of years ago when we were out there.
it was,
We
it
walked
was.
it, yeah.
But I mean, it's not just, that area. There's a lot of changes happening with eelgrass, on the East Coast. So.
One question I had, Susan, was
Yeah,
looking at some of my notes. I don't know if we covered it or not, but I never discussed something about specific places to offload. Like, do we need to make that designated or not as much?
specific places to offload, shellfish. I think that was in our
Yeah.
regulations.
Yeah, that'll be discussed more, of course, what should happen if the has it.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can identify certain extra offload.
yeah, and we will identify those.
Based on the time of year shading those, yeah, like sometimes you have ice to harvest, you ice in for an hour to get them back, or sometimes 90 minutes, so. But that's easily dealt with versus let's get started. So.
Yeah, let's get started. Okay. So no other questions about anything else? Online. So I guess we should vote to move these on to, are we voting for all four to move these on to the select board?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, all right.
Aye.
All right, so unanimous. So we are moving the 4 applications on to the select board and the select board will be scheduling a public hearing. So there will be notices on the dates of the public hearing, and I will also post it on our shellfish when they schedule it. And I'm really hoping for October. I think they're hoping for October as well, the select board. Okay, any other business? This was quick. I guess we talked about this ad nauseam, right? I guess I just wanna thank everybody for your patience and resilience in this, and for your questions. Because I think, although it's been a long road, we've had really good public comments, and I think that we've had really good input from the applicants, from the abutters, from the select board, from the committee, from everybody involved, and that's where we got to where we are. Where we got to where we are is further over to the side, toward the rocks, away from most things, and we think it's gonna be a good project, so we look forward to continued participation, because this is not the end. We will obviously be tweaking as we go. So thank you all for sticking with us
Thank
through
you.
this.
Yeah, thank you.
And we will see you at the select board meeting on this when it is scheduled. Okay, so motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.